Good day. I'm serious. Let's get to business. First of all, finished objects. Hat done. It took me like an hour. I don't know why I was delaying it. Perhaps because it is criminally boring. Probably not. It is sparkly, and sparkles are indeed quite serious. So, it did not take very long. I put in a marker for you so that you can see. There, that is where I started. I did not have any of my incredibly visible stitch markers with me at the time. I have to figure out where the camera is. Thank you. Very serious. Now, so I had to use this scrap yarn to indicate that. But this was not very many rows, and then I was like, I'm running out of yarn and I need to decrease. So I did a little bit of decreasing and then I ran out of yarn. So I just bounded off at the top because it's a hat and it's just not that big a deal. But it is a one skein project as advertised on the Lion brand Wool Ease Thick and Quick label. So good job, Lion brand, for being quite serious about your yardage estimations. It does, as you can see, fit an adult head. But I think that that will be perfect for the gremlin because the gremlin also has an adult head. So I think that that will work out quite nicely. So, other finished objects of what I was working on last time, no progress. Well, progress, but they're still works in progress. So they don't go in this section because we're serious and we observe delineated podcast sections. Next up, we have the Ireland's Eye. I did pull it out of timeout. And I made a little bit of progress on it, but it remains small gauge and boring. This is the finished sleeve. Look at how nice that is. What a lovely cuff that is. Perhaps in 5 to 7 business years, we will get to that point on the other sleeve. This is where I started. This is where I am. This is 1.5 repeats. I have no explanation for this. This sweater eats time. Only start an Ireland's Eye if you have time to feed it. Oh, no, I have dropped stitches. Okay. I fix. This is the Princess Panels sweater. It is this big. Rip. I ripped back to this point and I have knit this much since then. We're still doing the bust increases, so there's not much point in trying it on at this point, but I will try it on for you once I get it to the point where the bust increases will actually matter for the shaping, but right now it doesn't. It doesn't. It looks like a fake turtleneck from the 70s. That was a joke for 4 of you. I hope you appreciated it. I take this very seriously. But something that I do think is worth noting about especially reknits is how well the material holds up. And the yarn that I am using for this sweater is the Juniper Moon Farm Patagonia Organic Merino, Finest Organic Merino, humanely raised in Argentina, in the color Anthracite. Delightful. But it has been unraveled fully, and I did not rest it, nor did I reset it at any point. I am simply knitting directly from the Forbidden Ramen, but it is holding up quite nicely. There is no texture difference in the finished knit fabric between the part that has been knit and blocked and worn a couple of times and the part that is freshly knit, other than the usual minor tension things that do sort themselves out in blocking. So this is holding up quite nicely to its second knit. Zero difference at all. So I imagine that this could actually be reknit several times before it shows any signs of fraying or wear, depending on your tension and the needles that you use. My second go round, I am using a set of clover bamboo needles because that is what I had on hand for reasons unknown to me. I'm sure they're gremlin related. But previously I had used a set of metal needles on them, which does cause less stress on the fiber because of how very smooth they are. So that does play a part. This is me rambling. You're welcome. I have not made serious progress on this. That is very much on me. I will continue to work on it, though. It is excellent viewing knitting right now because I have all of my stitch markers to tell me when to pay attention, and then it is just stockinette in the meantime. So I anticipate making more progress on this, but I will need to finish my current obsession before that. The current obsession, of course, being these. Here, I put them both into frame for you. This is... I didn't finish the round before bringing this up to film. These are the Palestina mittens that I am doing as part of a knit-along. Here, feel free to join. The mittens are delightful. The pattern is fairly sparse. It pretty much just says cast on, do ribbing, follow chart. And the increases and decrease specifics are left very much up to you. However, as a mitten, there is very low chances of doing anything that could potentially disrupt the integrity of the material. So you are very much free to do what you wish in that sense. This is the 2-color version. And I am making a couple of changes as I knit the second mitten, which means that I will probably be knitting a third mitten. I will definitely be knitting a third mitten for reasons that will come up.
This is editing serious. I found out over the course of working on this video that I did not, in fact, make those reasons come up. So I will, in fact, be needing to knit a third mitten because the 2 mittens that I have made are both right mittens, and as I have at least one left hand, I will need to knit a left mitten. Now, I hear you ask, Sirius, why don't you find someone with 2 right hands to give those mittens to so you do not have to knit a third one? And I will answer you. The vast majority of people do have one left hand and one right hand, and if they do not have one left hand and one right hand, then the chances of them having 2 right hands are quite small. I feel that this severely limits my options when it comes to finding a prospective gift receiver for 2 right-handed mittens. So I will be knitting a third one, regardless of anybody's opinions on the aesthetic changes that I have made.
But I will be making a couple of changes on the second mitten. One is that I am adding my main color, this gray. I am adding a column of stitches along the edge of each side of the mitten. The reason that I'm doing that is because there were some floats as they wrap around the edge of the hand that were very difficult to tension because there was a lot of the contrast color that went all the way around, and so that left with some very awkward floats. And because there's not a lot of free space in a mitten, and because those floats need to be very tightly contained so that your fingers don't catch on them in order for it to be a serious and functional mitten, which is what we like, I did have to catch those floats on the first stitch of each side, and that left me with some tension inconsistencies that have not stretched out even after quite a firm blocking. So that is something that I will need to address. And so I have on this one, you can see this column of main color stitches on each side, and that helps keep everything together. As the yarn travels around the inner circumference of the mitten, it makes everything nice and tidy. So I will see what that looks like. Another change that I'm going to make, because this is a 2-color version, typically this Star of Bethlehem here would be red, and the cypress would be black, and the corn would be green. But I only have 2 colors, gray and green. And so, as such, the cypress and the corn do get a little bit muddy right here when they meet the Star of Bethlehem. So when I get to that point on the second mitten, I will be adding a diagonal row of main color stitches of this main color here to hopefully help differentiate between the Star of Bethlehem and the side patterns a little bit better, provide them with a little bit more distinction. This will not add any length because I will simply be following this diagonal row of main color stitches, and see that one right there is green. It would be gray on the second mitten. And so because they will not match, I will be needing to re-knit this one, which is a shame because it fits perfectly. Look at this. This is beautiful. I did a fantastic job on this, as did the pattern writer. It was a joint effort, and we love it. Adding the column of stitches does add 2 stitches to the total circumference of the mitten, so it will be a little bit wider. For me, that is not a problem. This is quite snug right now. You can see a little bit of stretching right here, especially around the thumb. So those 2 stitches will be great, so I will not have to adjust my gauge for that. But other than that, nice pointy top. I like a palm thumb. I don't like thumbs that stick out, so this is very aesthetically pleasing. And also the pattern of the keffiyeh continues on both the outside and the inside of the thumb. Look at this. This is brilliant. The pattern designer did an excellent job with this. Like I said, it is sparse, but it is not difficult. Highly recommend. My last work in progress is the green baby blanket. You'll notice this is the same picture. It's because the progress I've made is indistinguishable. Those blankets also eat time, so unless you have a lot of time to give to it, to keep them aspirational. Admire their beauty when you see them in the wild, but do not bring them inside. Now, in terms of acquisitions, like I said, I am not purchasing yarn or other materials at this point, with one exception, which I will talk about at the end. But I do want to show you some things that I found, because I was looking in my freezer and I found bags. 2 bags. And then in the outside freezer, I found another bag. I found bags of yarn that I put in the freezer last summer because I had moths. So they went into the freezer. Now, I have checked all of these over. These are moth and egg free, but I don't know what they are. So, we shall unbag them. We are not going to unbag all of them today. That would be substantial. But I will put it up to you. Would you like to see mystery sock yarn bag, mystery gray thing that appears to be fully knit, or a collection of disparate nonsense? It is up to you. Let me know in the comments. We'll go through all of them, never fear. We will just do them one at a time, based on your preferences. I don't know whether this is going to count as a finished object, a work in progress, or an acquisition. Feel free to weigh in, but I found another bag. Apparently, at some point, I was very big on these bags. Now, this contains 1 s'mores mitten by Jessie Ostermiller. This was a test knit that I did back in 2022, shortly after I finished the Villy neck warmer, but then I got very sick and I didn't knit for about 4 months, and I did not get back to her out of shame, which is deeply unserious behavior. My sincerest apologies, Jessie, if you're watching this. But I know that this is the second mitten. Where is the first mitten? I don't know. I know that there is a first mitten because it went into the freezer this summer, and I remember that because my partner asked me why there was a mitten in the freezer and I had to explain it to him. But this is the second one. Where is the first one? I checked the freezer. That's how I found all of the bags. So do I need to knit a 3rd s'mores mitten? Will this be enough yarn for a 3rd s'mores mitten? I do not know. Stay tuned. If at some point the works in progress number gets down to a reasonable number as defined by someone who is not me, because clearly I am not good at identifying what is reasonable when it comes to numbers or works in progress, then I might knit a 3rd mitten. But I have no intention of wearing these. For a few reasons. 1, they're not from the Golden Dawn set. They will not match my other things, which was my goal. But also, these are gigantic. This is the extra small size, and I did get gauge. There is a full inch on the outside of the thumb, which is a side thumb. It's not my preference, but that's a preference thing. The width is fine. This is a perfectly comfortable width, but there's another inch on top. And the thumb is a strange shape. Now, these are aesthetic preferences. This is just not to my taste. But it does mean that I will never, ever wear them. So if I do decide to knit a 3rd one, somebody will have to wear it. And that person is yet to be identified. Stay tuned. What else have I got? Ah, yes. So this morning, as I was coming up my stairs, which are Victorian death stairs. Google it, they're terrifying. I dropped a full cup of coffee onto a box. Now this box did contain the coffee, which was excellent. The box was, however, full of yarn. Yarn that I had forgotten that I had. So it's like acquisitions for both of us. So one is these. These are Knit Picks Stroll Fingering. The black is Stroll Fingering, and it has some loose fibre on it. Just put that back. Oh, I'm sorry. It is navy. How deeply unserious of me not being able to read. My apologies, Knit Picks. So, Knit Picks Stroll Fingering in navy, which even in sunlight is quite a dark navy indeed. And Knit Picks Stroll Tweed in North Pole Heather. Delightful. Now, each of these is enough for a pair of socks, but both of them together would be enough for a colorwork knee-high pair of socks, and that idea is very appealing to me. I have several options in my Ravelry queue at the moment because I am obsessed with sorting Ravelry by most difficult. It's a character flaw, I am aware. So I do have some options. What I really want to know is, when I do print out a pattern and put it aside in a project bag with these, and then hopefully remember it, when should I be allowed to knit it? I've got many things going on at the moment, and should my partner see more project bags appear, they may well object. Which is fair, we both live in this house. This leaves me with rather less room for yarn than one might like, but c'est la vie. So, when should I knit it? At what point? How many things should I finish and not start before I start more things? Let me know. The other thing I found in that box, which delighted me very much, is King Cole New Zigzag 4-ply suitable for socks in the color 3252. Delightful. Now, this end has coffee on it. I will never wear this, but it's socks, so I might wear this. My usual color rules for what I put on myself do not apply when it comes to socks because most people see them and nobody really cares if my feet look sick, only my face, so I tend to put bright colors lower, down to my feet, in socks. But it is very nice. I like this combination. It tickles my brain in a very satisfying way. Coffee spots notwithstanding. So, this will need to stay somewhere nearby so I don't forget about it. And then we will both remember that it's there and be like, aha, sock yarn. And then I will knit some socks. It will be delightful. I do not want to overwhelm you with acquisitions at this time. I did find quite a lot of yarn while I was doing things, but I must spread this out for content. So we shall wait together. It will be fun. Now, going forward, I do need to knit on the baby blanket, or I need to decide whether or not that relationship is important enough to me to plow through the baby blanket. And if it isn't, then I need to frog the baby blanket and reclaim that yarn and use it for something that I will enjoy. Because the more that I knit on it, the more I think that maybe the fact that I am so ambivalent about it is telling me something very serious that I should listen to. But should is not a serious word, so I would like to hear your thoughts on that. At what point do you consider that you are knitting something out of a feeling of obligation rather than out of a desire to share love? I don't know. I'm a little bit close to it. I would greatly like to hear your opinions. So, I would also need to continue to work on the Princess Pennell sweater. Like I said, because it is stockinette, it does make excellent casual viewing knitting. So I don't foresee that being much of an issue. And as long as I can retain my obsessive momentum on the Palestina mittens, I think that I will be able to knock even the third mitten out before I see you again. So I will probably have that, and I don't think that that will be a problem. But what I do need to do is start on the Golden Rays. I got it wrong earlier. It's the Golden Rays set. Sorry. I do need to get that started if I have any hope of wearing it before it becomes too warm to wear wool on my neck. Which, given the weather of Washington, the state, not the city, could be any time. We shall see. So, I think that will need to be my next started object once I finish with the Palestina mittens. And then we will see what we unbag. Maybe there will be something exciting there. I am curious about how far along whatever this is exactly. Maybe it's almost done. Maybe I'll remember who it was for. Let's find out. Thank you very much for joining me. This has been enjoyable. If you like this and you would like to take knitting seriously with me, like and subscribe. And remember to take your life seriously, or no one else will. Until next time.